Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Because 2023 is a special year, because it's the 60th anniversary, so I wanted to start with what I hope is a special book. And I wanted to go for something that, harks back to what was happening 60 years ago, but also maybe an anniversary of its own. So this is my convoluted way of saying, Matt, we are going to be reading Shroud of Sorrow. And it's by Tommy Donbavand. So it's 11th Doctor and Clara.
Oh.
Also as well features something else that was happening in the world the day before Doctor Who's first episode aired.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going great. Happy New Year, Chris.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to everybody at home.
Yes, hopefully 2023 will bring good tidings and joy, but I'm not super optimistic. We shall see.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have some Doctor Who news, some good and some sad news.
Yes.
I guess we'll start with the cheery news that costumes have been unveiled for the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, and his assistant, Ruby Sunday. It's quite an orange-based affair, and all Ncuti needs is a top hat, and he will look like Professor Layton. So I saw some comparisons, and the costume is almost spot on. Mm-hmm. But it looks like he's got some necklaces and some Gallifreyan nail art. Mm-hmm. So, exciting stuff.
He's also, as well, going to be the first Doctor with facial hair.
That's right. Not counting John Hurt.
But yes, yeah. Well, first regular Doctor.
Also not counting, I think, quite a few of the Morbius Doctors, but yeah, of the regular. And then the sad news we heard, of course, Chris Boucher, unfortunately, passed away. And I don't know if we've read a novel by him, but he's, of course, instrumental in the development of Blake 7.
Yes.
As well as contributing Robots of Death.
Yeah. The Guardian obituary of him that Toby Haydock did was a very good and interesting read. Some of the quotes from his Doctor Who scripts are fantastic. And are just as apt out of context and now as they were in the 70s. So, it's a sad miss. And that also means, I think, we now no longer have any writers from the 60s or 70s alive. And so it means that the earliest episode with at least one writer still alive is Meglos.
Yeah, and then full circle after that with Andrew Smith, yeah. Well,
yeah, cheery.
Well, our episode this month is called Shroud of Sorrow, so yeah, I guess it fits.
Yes.
A little bit of Doctor Who book news to share. We had spoken about Rebellion on Treasure Island, and that title has been further delayed and is now out June 22nd. So hopefully it'll still be published this year.
I was going to say, which year?
BBC Audio has announced that they're going to be adapting Graham Williams's The Nightmare Fair, and it will be released unabridged on June 1st.
Okay.
Narrator to be announced.
Right.
Don't think they'll be able to get Neil Patrick Harris, but it would be nice.
Yeah, take this as further confirmation.
The Toymaker story came out on vinyl. That to me was like, where are we headed here?
Yes. I hope they're not about to announce that they found it.
That would be exciting, I guess. We also have got a Target-sized spin-off novel announced by Tellus that is available this month. It's a novelization of the 1988 Doctor Who fan film Wartime, and it's being novelized by Stephen James Walker.
Okay.
And it's designed to fit in with the Target novels.
Cool.
We've also got the fanzine book, also announced by Tellus, which is by Alistair McGowan, and is a look at the golden age of the Doctor Who Underground Press, and publication date to be announced. And then finally, special thanks to listener Jason Tucker for letting us know about this one. Panini are now selling digital versions of their Complete History series. So those individual volumes in hardcover were something like $15 to $20 a piece, and if you spring for the digital bundle, it comes to something like $6 a piece. So I know those are out of print and highly collectible, but this gives folks a way to perhaps save on shelf space while
yes,
getting those.
Cool.
And that's our book news for the month.
Marvelous. So I think that brings us to show and tell.
That's right. And for show and tell this month, I have a set of 7 hologram cards from Who North America, which is a retailer stateside. And these are apparently from all the way back in 1988. And there are 7 cards in total. And I'm going to open these live on air. They've been sitting on my desk for a few weeks. So let's see what we've got here. Comes in like a little Who North America polybag branded card. Oh, we've got these are by Light Fantastic Limited London. And they're actually from 1987, not 88. But we've got a Dalek, which looks very 3D, kind of bursting out of what appears to be the door in The Five Doctors. We have a TARDIS that is not holographic, but has looks like it's a vortex background.
Cool.
We have Davros.
Okay.
It appears to be the Destiny version, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
Well, appears to be a Santaran or Sea Devil. No, Santaran. And then, oh no, that's the Santaran. It is a Sea Devil. A Sea Devil, a Santaran emerging from his ship. And Syl.
Of course.
And a Cyberman, which bursting through a door, which appears to be from Earthshock.
Okay.
So yeah, and as of this recording, they still have 22 sets available, and the set goes for $10. So a reasonable sum to get a piece of history that's 30 plus years old at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and cheaper than another sort of trading card that a former president of yours was starting to flog.
Oh, yes. I'm holding these in my hand. They are not NFTs.
Yeah.
I spent money on real physical.
Yes. Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
Before we go on to my show and tell, I remember seeing photos of those cards when I was about 10 and thinking that they looked so cool. It brings back memories of me kind of like wanting to go to London to see if I can track these down. Yeah, I would have had no plan as to how to do that, but yeah, that was certainly...
Well, I think Who North America ships internationally, so if you really want a set, or I could mail you these.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm all right. So, but thank you. Yeah, so for my show and tell, so last month, we went to Pompeii, did Lauren and I, which is, of course, been in a couple of Doctor Who stories, one Big Finish and one TV, Fires of Pompeii, which sort of showed us both a future Doctor and a future companion. It's a remarkable place to go around anyway, even without the Doctor Who connection. Though I did go to Caecilius's house. There's a Latin course book that features Caecilius Jucundus, who is the character that Peter Capaldi is kind of supposed to be playing, though I think he's got a slightly different name. But like all of that family in Fires of Pompeii are named after people from a Latin textbook.
Did you see any tributes to household gods in his house?
I did not know, because you can only come into kind of like the doorway of it. You can't actually enter the house itself these days. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily getting full of Doctor Who fans, but certainly there'd often be Brits that would be going around there. Though there was a house not that far away that had a "Beware the Dog" sign that had been tiled into the floor, which was kind of cool. Obviously, it's a very moving place to go to as well. Like Lauren found, I'd wandered off at one point. Lauren turned around a corner, and she suddenly found herself alone in a room with one of the kind of like the plaster casts of someone that had died.
Huh.
And so I then came to see where she was. I went, oh, and this is something that gets referenced surprisingly in the book we're reading.
Oh,
Pompeii.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Briefly.
So,
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah. It's
sounds like a fun vacation.
Yes, a fun vacation. I mean, a bit of a tenuous Doctor Who connection, but yeah, we also went to the Colosseum, which we have read.
Oh yeah, the Stone
Rose. So I didn't try to recreate any scenes from the Stone Rose. Certainly, if ever you find yourself in Italy, I can thoroughly recommend a trip to Pompeii. So I'd been there about 20 years ago. It has improved in the interim time. Definitely worth a trip.
Very cool. Yeah, my husband went there 3 or 4 years ago, but I have not been yet. So
yeah.
All right. Well, this month we've read Shroud of Sorrow by Tommy Donbavand. And this was Tommy's only Doctor Who novel. He also wrote 3 Paternoster Gang Investigates short stories and 2 comic strip stories for Doctor Who Adventures. But he has written 90-plus children's novels, including Fang's Vampire Spy and the 13-book Scream Street series, which was adapted into a CBBC animated series. And he also contributed to Beano. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2019 at the age of 51 from cancer. And there were 2 charity anthologies published as a fundraiser for him, a Target for Tommy and a second Target for Tommy, which included contributions from Paul Mars, Steve Cole, Paul Cornell, and Daniel Blythe. And the second book in that charity series included the exclusive publication of the Christopher Eccleston draft scene by Stephen Moffat for The Day of the Doctor. And the Target storybook was dedicated to his memory, as was the Big Finish Doctor Who audio anthology Time Apart, which included a story written by Tommy Donbavand called What Lurks Down Under, which was recorded and released posthumously. And prior to being an author, he was an actor in the London's glittering West End, which I may talk about more a little bit later. As it becomes relevant to the plot.
Yes.
Of course, this is the 11th Doctor and Clara, so this takes place sometime during the second half of Series 7. And this book features 16 untitled chapters with a few extra chapters sprinkled in, with dates ranging from 1929 to the year 3006. And the book is dedicated to Tommy's sons, Aaron and Sam, who watched the Doctor's adventures with him.
Okay. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, let's. And I think we begin with the prologue, right?
We do, indeed.
Set in a familiar time.
Yes. It is the 23rd of November, 1963. What possible thing could have happened on that day? And also, this is where we're going to be having our reading. So, our reading this month is from actor-writer Anna Rose James. She's going to be performing at the UK Ghost Story Festival in Derby on the 16th and 19th of February. And dear listener, I'll also be there. So if you're popping along, go and say hi. I am not there in any professional capacity, just there as a kind of like a helper. And Anna Rose was included in an anthology of Best New British and Irish Poets, 2019 to 2021. And you can find her on Instagram on Anna on the Page.
Cool, and we'll include those links in our show notes as well. Great, let's have a listen.
PC Reg Cranfield turned the corner into Totter's Lane, the beam of his torch slicing through the fog. It was a thick one tonight, what his dad would have referred to as a real pea super, had he still been alive to say it. It was a cold one too. Reg pulled his jacket tighter around himself, hoping that the lads back at the station would remember to keep the teapot warm this time. He didn't want to come back to a cold brew on a night like this. Still, at least the streets were quiet tonight. Everyone was indoors watching the news reports coming in from America. Nasty business, that. This wasn't his regular beat. He'd swapped shifts at the last minute with his drinking buddy, PC Rawlings, who claimed he was coming down with the flu. Reg wasn't convinced. Fred was as healthy as a horse. He'd never had so much as a sniffle in all the time they'd known each other. Sergeant Clough reckoned it all had something to do with what had happened last night, when Fred had returned to the Nick as white as a sheet, blabbering on about people in the mist who weren't really there. More likely he'd stopped off for one too many braces at the Rose and Crown, but Fred had swapped with him plenty of times over the past few months so he could go and visit his dad. Reg found himself thinking about his father again. It was 2 weeks now. 2 weeks since he'd slipped away, less than half an hour after Reg had left the old folks' home after his nightly visit. It was almost as though his dad had deliberately held off dying until his only son was safely on the number 91 bus back home before heading for the pearly gates. Not that his dad had believed in any form of life after death. In fact, he only went to church on Christmas Eve because he'd promised Reg's mother that he would continue to do so after she had died. "If there was an afterlife, I'd know about it," he used to tease. "Your mother never stopped nagging me when she was alive, and there'd be no stopping her coming back from beyond the grave to do the same." Of course, now his dad had gone off to join his mum, wherever that was. Reg hadn't even found out until he telephoned the home from the station the next morning to see if his dad had had a comfortable night. He didn't have a telephone at his flat, so the staff at the home had no way of contacting him. Of course, now there was no point in getting a line installed at all. His torch swept across the wooden gates of Foreman's scrapyard, and Reg paused to check they were securely locked. There had been rumours of teenagers hanging around the gates at all hours of the day and night, although no break-ins had been reported, and nothing had gone missing. Still, that didn't mean the yard was going to become a hangout for school kids when they should be at home with their families. Not on his watch. "Reggie." Reg spun round, waving his torch to and fro like a fencer's foil. "Who's there?" "Reggie." Reg shivered. This wasn't funny. The only person who ever called him by that name was his dad. Whoever was doing so now would have some serious explaining to do. "I said who's there." Then his torch picked out a face looming slightly out of the thick mist, a face that didn't seem to be connected to anything else. "This is Police Constable Cranfield," he announced. "Identify yourself." "Reggie, it's me." Reg felt his legs turn to jelly, forcing him to press his free hand against the scrapyard gates to steady himself. "Dad?" The face was clearer now, taking shape as more wisps of fog blew in on the breeze. It was, without a shadow of a doubt, Reg's father. "Dad," he croaked, his mouth suddenly bone dry. "Dad, I don't—" "You left me, Reggie." "What?" "You left me that night. Left me to die alone." Reg's legs gave way and he slumped back against the gate, rattling the padlock chain. "No, you don't understand." "I was alone, Reggie. Alone and in pain. I couldn't even call for help." But Dad," said Reg, blinking back tears, "I had to get the last bus. You know I always get that bus when I came to see you. You know that." The face was drifting closer now, swelling out of the fog, growing more and more real with every passing second. "You don't know what it's like, Reggie," the face said, its expression twisting into an angry sneer. "To be abandoned by your family, to be left alone by those you've cared for all your life." "It wasn't like that," sobbed Reg, the tears flowing freely now. "If I'd known, I'd have stayed, I promise." "Stayed to watch me die?" "Yes. No. I mean, I would have stayed there so I could have got help for you." "But you didn't stay, Reggie, after all I've done for you." "Dad, please." Reg's voice was little more than a whisper. The face darted forward towards him, mouth wide and teeth bared. Reg dropped his torch to the ground and covered his eyes with his hands. "No! No!" Then the face of PC Reg Cranfield's dead father began to scream.
Thank you so much, Anna Rose, for reading that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
I kind of think of that as like a cold open. You can almost hear the title sequence just crashing in at the end there.
Yes, yeah. It's a very attention-grabbing start, isn't it?
I did find it funny that the officer at the beginning didn't recall the killer snowman coming to life a few days prior, as seen in Time and Relative, but,
Yeah. So, on the planet Xenofax, meanwhile, the TARDIS has been caught up in a storm, and it's hovering at 45 degrees over a whole lot of water. It's trying to pull a small spaceship full of archaeologists out of the floodwater. And after the Doctor's managed to pull the ship free, he goes to dry off and comes back to find that the TARDIS is crying as something's gone wrong with its helmet regulator. And sparks start pouring down onto the Doctor and Clara. And suddenly a vision of Astrid appears briefly on the monitor before it's swallowed up in static. They decide to try to follow it to see what's happening.
And with Astrid's face appearing, at first I was thinking like, oh, is this a sequel to Voyage of the Damned? And then I started wondering like, oh, is Clara going to see Danny's face? And then I remembered she hasn't met him yet.
Yes,
So
yeah.
That this takes place before season 8.
And the TARDIS lands, but somewhat off course, like in a hospital. And Clara and the Doctor are wandering out around the corridors where people are very glum and they're not at all talkative. And the TARDIS crew are somewhat confused until the Doctor finds a copy of the Dallas Morning News and realises that they're in Dallas on the 23rd of November, the day after John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
That got me wondering, can this and Who Killed Kennedy coexist? And I think it can, because most of the action in this book seems to start the day after, and it's not like the events leading up to the assassination.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Doctor visiting Frost Fairs and being there multiple times. And because, of course, we also potentially have the Ninth Doctor being present as seen badly photoshopped in Rose.
Yes.
Always interesting when we join the TARDIS crew kind of in situ in, mid-adventure. I guess the drawback for me is that it makes it feel more like the TV show, and which sometimes, opens in the middle of an adventure, and less like a missing adventure, because now you've created two gaps where previously there was one. But and we also get a reference to the Doctor keeping dwarf star alloy chains on board, which we saw him use to great effect at the end of the Family of Blood.
There's quite a few callbacks, aren't there, to various stories, some more subtly interwoven than others.
The only other thing I would say about the first chapter is the Doctor and Clara's relationship and banter felt a little bit off to me.
Yes, I'd agree.
Almost like the worst of the Sixth Doctor and Perry, and that was a little bit jarring because it didn't read to me like the 11th Doctor and Clara.
Yeah.
And I know she was a mystery at the time and he didn't quite trust her, but there was just like a hint of meanness there that came through, I guess.
Yeah, there's some antagonism in there, isn't there? Which I don't recall there being in the series. But then again, I know Clara isn't one of your favourite companions. I think of there being two companions called Clara Oswald. There's the one that travels with Matt Smith, and there's the one that travels with Peter Capaldi, and they seem to be totally different characters. I found the Peter Capaldi one always a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at her time on the TARDIS.
Yes.
So back to the book here. Across town, we are introduced to May Callan. She's a reporter at the Dallas Morning News, where she's been assigned to work on the Zapruder footage, which was freshly developed. And she, like all of the staff, are in a state of shock, and she's functioning as best she can, on this incredibly busy news day, taking in a lot of coffee. And she notices that the coffee stains on her desk start to merge together and start looking like her late grandmother, who then begins to admonish her for missing her funeral in order to cover the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the face starts lifting out of the wood, yelling at her. So she slams her typewriter onto the face until she realizes that everyone else is staring at her. And then we cut to the Dallas Book Repository, where there's a older, somewhat unfit FBI agent called Warren Skeet. and he's climbing up to the 6th-story window to look for further evidence related to Lee Harvey Oswald. And there's a forensic team up there that's working away, dusting everything. And FBI agent Skeet starts seeing images of his late colleague Jock in the window pane reflected to him. And Jock is blaming Skeet for not doing enough to save his life. And the face moves so much that the glass breaks, shattering the illusion.
Yeah. There's weird stuff going on, isn't there?
I read this one over Christmas break, and despite it being set in November, it felt very kind of Christmas Carol to me, with the ghosts appearing out of different objects, like the coffee stains, like Jacob Marley appearing in a door knocker.
Yeah, yeah. So May, the journalist, is in hospital, having scalded her arm as part of trying to deal with her late grandmother and the shock. And she is being looked after by a somewhat eccentric English doctor and his friend, Nurse Clara. And the doctor examines May's burn and reckons it looks like a face. May says the face is that of her late grandmother. The doctor uses his sonic screwdriver on the burn, and it suddenly becomes very talkative. And the face reveals that it's called the Shroud. And the doctor forces the Shroud back onto May's arm, just as Dr. Murray Ellison comes into the room, wondering who Clara and the doctor are. When Murray sees the Shroud reappear at the doctor's command, she trusts the doctor even more. Then they hear 4 screams in the hospital in opposing directions. So, with the Shroud back in May's arm, the 4 of them split into 2 teams, May and the doctor being Team A, and Dr. Mary and Clara being Team C.
Oh, yes. No Team B.
No.
And when there's the screaming in the corridors, there's a great line from the doctor where he grabs Clara's hand and he says to her, "They're playing our song."
Yes.
All right. Then there's like a little bit of an interlude where the book turns into Old Yeller, where a boy called Benji is playing with his elderly dog Tess, and he's straying onto his neighbor's land, despite the fact that Benji has always felt uneasy there. And we're told that this is a slight flashback to 1929.
Yes.
And Benji's dad wants him to be a farmhand, but Benji's dreaming of moving to the city and perhaps pursuing like a writing career. And his father arrives to wake him and tells him that he's heard from the vet that Tess is ill. And Benji's in tears. His father says he either has to run back to his mom or find a suitable resting place for Tess. Well, the dog licks his tears away, and his dad brings like the shotgun out. Rather grim.
Yes, so extreme parenting.
Yeah. And then we jump back to the hospital scene where Clara and Dr.
Is it Mary? Mary.
Clara and Dr. Mary. They go to a ward that's empty other than a distraught younger doctor named Dr. Ross, who's standing by an open window several stories up.
I've just realised that's an ER thing, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because Dr. Ross, that's George Clooney's character, I think.
Is Alex Kingston represented?
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to remember who her character was named.
Yeah.
Check that real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, Elizabeth Corday. I don't think we have any any of those names. But one thing that I found kind of remarkable is that Dr. Mary she's a woman doctor, and at the time, especially in 1963, her being a mentor to a younger male doctor is really remarkable, especially in Texas.
Yes.
Considering, that women weren't able to even have bank accounts in their own name until the 1960s, and not until, I think, 1975 in the UK.
Yeah.
And only about 7% of the doctors were women at the time in the US. I looked that up just because I thought, like, oh, maybe they should remark on how extraordinary this is, for the time. But that felt a little like a modern twist.
Yes.
Incongruent a bit. So Dr. Ross is standing in front of this window and he's staring at a spilt blood bag when the head of a young woman kind of rears its head and screams at him that she never really loved him. And it turns out it's his wife who died in a car accident with another man beside her in the car. And Clara and Dr. Marie cover up the head, but Dr. Ross is so distraught that he jumps out the window to join his late wife.
The Doctor and May, meanwhile, have found a pregnant woman who's being haunted by the Shroud, and they manage to deliver the baby and kind of like banish that particular Shroud instance. When Clara comes into the room, Dr. Mary has gone to kind of help deal with the body of Dr. Ross.
And the Doctor has a bit of a conversation with the newly delivered baby.
Yes!
And we learn that this time the baby's name is Kilotron 3000.
Yes. Yeah.
Or Betty.
Yes. And there are screams throughout the hospital now. And May reminds the Doctor that she got her shroud at her workplace, so it isn't just a hospital.
Yeah, and the Doctor having seen Astrid in the TARDIS earlier too, and then plus the prologue in London, like the effects are widespread and they're not just contained to, like you were saying, the hospital or even Dallas.
Yeah. So they run to the TARDIS and they go past all sorts of apparitions until they see a face that's emerging from some mud on the TARDIS door. The mud was from the flood bit earlier. Clara sees her uncle, May sees her grandmother, and the Doctor sees Astrid Peth. So it's interesting that Clara doesn't, because like one of her parents dies, don't they, Clara?
Yeah, I think her mother.
Yes, it's her mother. Yeah. So it's interesting that she saw her uncle rather than her mother. Kind of. So
it does make me wonder how, like, when this was written, and and especially with like the characterization of Clara, like how much material the author had access to, as he was writing this.
Yeah, so the fact that they're all seeing different faces means that the Shroud are using some psychic powers to force people's brains to perceive someone who they've missed. And there's various like mental tendrils that are emerging from it, and so Clara and May are trying to avoid those whilst they're wiping off the mud. And also, like, the Doctor has got his sonic to try to kind of de-shroud the mud.
And this I thought was a bit of misdirection because for a while I was thinking, oh, the Doctor and Clara brought the shroud with them somehow from the other planet, and maybe it was in the mud because it affected them in the TARDIS first before landing, but that wasn't the case.
No, I think maybe it's just reaching out through the Time Vortex or something. I don't know. So, inside the TARDIS, the Doctor says that right now the ship can only travel in space, as the time travel part of it is broken because Clara made the TARDIS cry, which is both convenient and cruel. It's like convenient from a plot point of view, but it's like we are entering Sixth Doctor territory here. So they tried to take off to the newspaper office where the burn happened. But the TARDIS can't leave. And the Doctor then looks into some hacked Sputnik images that he's managed to acquire and realises that there's a wormhole stationed by the Earth. And he reckons that's got to be how the Shroud is kind of like reaching the Earth.
I'm pretty sure Sputnik didn't have a camera. I think it was just a radio transmitter. But
that we were told. So, maybe that's why those lovely, very convincing American FBI agents are in Wales for Delta and Donbavand. Because they're trying to get the Sputnik with the camera on.
Yeah. The one that crashes into the bus. Yeah.
Yes. So the Doctor, he really needs to get to the newspaper office where the Shroud infected May. How do they do this? They steal an ambulance. And as they're heading towards the office in a stolen ambulance, the Doctor reckons that the Shroud have always been here on Earth, but they've been stirred by the great grief and fear caused by Kennedy's assassination. Yeah, we might come back to this because I'm not entirely sure this all hangs together. But anyhow, and in the newspaper office, May's editor Ben is transfixed by a woman with dog eyes who is holding his hands rigidly. And the Doctor can't separate them, as breaking the link might hurt Ben. So he attempts to enter Ben's mind to see what he can learn about the Shroud.
Yeah, and this brought back flashes of Olivia Colman and Prisoner Zero in terms of the dog eyes and, and the linking and all of that. Yeah. So we go back to 1929 in the flashback where Benji has learned that his dog Tess is terminally ill. And Benji here is actually Ben in 1963, who's the editor of the newspaper. And so this is like a flashback into his past. And Benji's father's threatening to kill the dog Tess, and Benji's forced to choose between helping to put the dog down or run home. And a voice suddenly suggests that a third option would be for the Shroud to leave this man's memories. And this is the Doctor materializing, in Ben's head. And he sonics away Ben's father's rifle by deleting the memory of it from Ben's neurons, but then realizes that the Shroud is still present and is therefore not the father figure, but is in fact Tess the dog that the Shroud has taken residence in his memories. And Ben still thinks he's the 8-year-old Benji, but then he remembers that the real Tess died by the chicken coop near his house and not at the edge of this ranch property that his father owns. The Shroud has been manipulating his memories to make things seem, even worse than they were, to extract the greatest possible amount of grief or sadness. And the Doctor takes Benji on there's a horse nearby, and they ride to the coop by the house, and along the way, Benji ages back into Ben, and the Shroud destroys the memory of the horse, and as a result, they fall off, and they're still a good bit away from the house, so Ben imagines that they've already arrived there, and they kind of skip the travel bit, and it's there that he remembers that it was a vet that put Tess to sleep, and they didn't have to shoot the dog, violently or anything. Then the Doctor and Ben find themselves in an attic, and it's closer to present day, or closer to 1963, and this attic is full of different boxes, and each of the boxes contain different memories. And Ben remembers his first date with Jane, who's his future wife, when he was 21, and they went on a ghost train ride at an amusement park. And while on the train ride, the dog appears again, and Ben is being tricked into carrying a gun from the shooting gallery from the fun fair. And the Doctor realizes that the only way forward is to erase the memory of his dog Tess entirely. And then there's a sudden flash, and the Doctor comes to back on the carpeting in the newsroom, and he realizes that he's been forcibly separated from Ben, who is twitching and dying on the floor, because Clara and May are being arrested for stealing the ambulance from earlier, as is the Doctor. And Ben, because he was separated from the Shroud, is having a heart attack and is dying from, the traumatic experience.
Yeah, it's quite a shocking and grim turn of events, isn't it? And I wasn't expecting that reveal that Benji was Ben for some reason. I was wondering whether it was something to do with the origin of the Shroud or something like that.
Yeah.
And
the way the Shroud manifests as your memories of your loved ones, that reminded me of a few different things. Probably closest, villain in this story feeds off grief, which is the same as we had in Plague City a few books ago.
Yes.
Of course, this one was written first, but it would be nice if other authors avoided this type of villain and motivation, for a bit.
Yeah.
But we also learned through the flashback and stuff in the memories of the family members, and if you touch them, then you kind of get sucked into them. That reminded me of there's an episode of Class called Night Visiting.
Yeah.
Where it was a similar sort of setup where making contact with your loved one is deadly. I thought the journey through Ben's memories was rather well done. In my mind, it conveyed, those random associations where you think of something and it, almost like a dreamlike quality,
Yes.
It manifests. That was rather well captured.
So a short while later, the Doctor is in a police cell being questioned about Ben's death by a pair of cops, and he explains to them that the Shroud kills people if the Shroud can force them to accept their loss, and therefore, given the world's grief at what's happened to John F. Kennedy, it could infect and kill humanity. And the Doctor is insistent that he's taken to the hospital when a figure enters the room and dismisses the two cops. And it's Agent Warren Skeet from earlier, the FBI agent, who believes the Doctor because of what had happened to him, like the ghosts of his former fellow agent appearing. So Agent Skeet and the Doctor go out into the corridor and find lots of cops holding hands with versions of a blue veiled woman. And they also find a teenage girl called Peggy, who is hiding, scared of what's going on, but has little psychic connectivity. Like she, for example, thinks that the psychic paper is a blank sheet of paper. And the Doctor and Warren put her in a cell for her protection, and then find Clara and May in a similar cell. And as the Doctor introduces Clara and May to Warren, they hear dozens of military vehicles heading to the hospital. And so the Doctor knows that they have to head there. And at the hospital, there's a General West who has turned an operating theatre into a command centre and is reflecting on the chaos of the last 24 hours. And he thinks that the Russians is behind all of this, because he's kind of like tying this up with the assassination. And he feels that the American government have been too lenient on Castro and the like. And as a rather grim twist, West is using the faces of children's dolls, like the heads of them, to mark on the map. He's got this giant map on the wall where various Shroud sightings have been seen. And then he's interrupted by the arrival of Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, but not the one you might be expecting, because this is the Doctor in disguise. And
rather unconvincingly, too.
Yes.
With his mustache.
Yes, but hilariously. And also, I guess that's probably a reference to Nicholas Courtney's mustache, because throughout most of his time playing the Brigadier, he didn't have a genuine mustache. But so the Doctor tries to convince West to withdraw his troops until his rather tenuous disguise is ruined by a quick call to the British Army by West's sidekick. But suddenly West collapses because his sidekick has drugged him, having realised that the Doctor is a better person than General West.
And there's quite a bit of military insubordination there.
Yes.
But yeah, with the mustache too, it makes me wonder if Ncuti Gatwa's mustache is going to be real or not, because I've seen him photographed with it and without it, but it looks like he's keeping it for the episodes, like you were saying. But yeah, I don't know. I have to say, too, with so much of this being set in a hospital, I generally don't care for hospitals for story settings. I think it feels a bit too, like you were saying earlier, like ER or Casualty to me. Yeah. And you have all of time and space to choose from, and you pick a hospital to set your setting. The Stealers of Dreams was like that, too, where a lot of the action, was set in a hospital. It's just a personal preference thing. Yeah, I don't have like a fear of hospitals. Like I can go in them just fine. It's just they seem, I guess, more pedestrian or not as exciting of a setting to set it. But I understand story wise why he's doing that. Yeah. The other thing I'd mention too is as they were headed to the hospital and they were going through like a security checkpoint, another soldier was killed by the Shroud, and it's kind of a chilling scene, but it helps set the story in season 7 a little bit more concretely. And we can say that this is set after Cold War, because in that story is where, Clara first encounters dead bodies along with her travel to the Doctor and has that reaction. And here she's completely fine with it. The Doctor tells her, oh, pick up that corpse over there and stick it in the back of the ambulance to hide it. And she's like, okay. Yeah. She doesn't miss a beat, and she just does that. So, set after Cold War.
Well, I mean, this could be set after Name of the Doctor. I think equally. So
potentially, yeah. That's right. She started at Coal Hill, or is just starting. The Doctor has figured out that the only way to beat the Shroud is to find its weaknesses from the past. And given that the TARDIS is out of action, the best way to do this is to go through the wormhole in which the Shroud had arrived on Earth from, because he wants to investigate, the previous planet, presumably at the other end of that wormhole, to find out what happened and how the Shroud had conquered that planet, to look for weaknesses. And wormholes being incredibly dangerous, they have to enter it in something metal, like a Faraday cage. In this case, they use the ambulance.
Yeah, I'm laughing because, why does metal work?
Yeah. Plot reasons? I don't know.
Yes.
And rather than it being like an instantaneous portal, It turns out it's like a tunnel that's several miles long, or at least a couple miles long, that they have to drive through, and the tunnel feels like concrete that hasn't quite set, so it's much like Minnesota winter right now. The snow we're having to deal with. But what's coming through the walls of the tunnel are heads and limbs, almost like stalactites and stalagmites, which weirdly reminds the Doctor of bodies from Pompeii, which is your Pompeii reference there.
Yes, my unexpected reference. Yeah.
When they were traveling through this wormhole tunnel, the Doctor remarked that the bodies were left over from the previous planet and were brought along by the Shroud through this tunnel as travel snacks, which was some pretty horrific imagery.
Yes.
And, as the ambulance drives over some of these bumps, like these people's bodies, then all of a sudden they get flashes of their lives like playing out before them. And I was actually visualizing almost like a Run Lola Run sort of intense little burst of memories. And the ambulance fortunately has enough gas to make it through the other side of the wormhole, where it exits into a snowstorm, landing on like a sheet of ice, and it's raining intensely and icy rain, and the ambulance slides into a snowdrift where it gets stuck. And as they clamber out, they see like a row of storehouses at the end of the snowdrift, almost looking like a hobbit village.
Yes. Yeah.
And some of these houses have smashed windows and damaged doors. So fortunately, the planet at the other end, has a breathable atmosphere and appears to have, is very similar to Earth.
But also, they're not freezing, because I've never been to Texas, but I suspect Texas in late November. It might be cold for Texans. It's often not that snowy, I would have thought. Yeah, it probably you wouldn't be able to go straight from a Texan late autumn, early winter into kind of like icy conditions.
Yeah. You'd think there'd be some remark about that. Yeah, because Texans are not used to the cold.
No.
Minnesotans, I think, would just get on with it.
Yes. Yeah.
It only took them 20 minutes to get the ambulance out of the snowbank. And I have to say that isn't that much time. 1 year at Console Room, it took me over 90 minutes to dig my car out after an ice storm.
God.
And some of our listeners who were there that year can attest to that. So I don't think their storm was that intense.
No. No, it was intense for Texans, possibly.
Yes.
And Londoners.
So the travelers dig the ambulance free from the snow using some makeshift shovels from the wood paneling of the ambulance. And not long after they started driving again, the ambulance is attacked by a group of people in ragged clothes. And two women break into the ambulance and drag May out from the back of it. And the Doctor gets warning Clara to drive on with the ambulance so it doesn't get overwhelmed. Well, he exits the vehicle and rolls to a stop and chases after May's kidnappers. The Doctor catches up with them and he manages to distract them with his sonic. And these attackers, they reminded me of, was it the Future Kind from, what's the Derek Jacobi? Oh, yeah, Utopia, kind of.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a Mad Max style sort of gang.
Yes. There's a slight Walking Dead vibe as well.
Yeah. Someone on a rooftop shouts that the Doctor and May are surrounded by these attackers, that the gang merely wants the Doctor and May's possessions. So the Doctor starts going through his pockets and finds a bunch of things, including a baseball signed by Babe Ruth, which May throws and chucks at the gang to distract them. And the person shouting from the rooftop tells them to run into that particular building, and they're shuffled into a basement and hide very quietly, waiting for the gang to disperse. And the Doctor and May realize, once they're able to see their surroundings, that they've been rescued by two men.
Well, you say see their surroundings. They're not able to see their surroundings that much just yet, because they aren't able to see the men.
True, yeah, they can't see their faces yet.
Yeah.
And they learn that the gang are called the Wanters, because they, want people's possessions. And then one of the men turns on an oil lamp and reveals that the rescuers are full-on clowns. like with painted faces.
Yeah.
One named Flip Flop and the other named Wobble Bottom. And they use the basement to typically shelter from savage bear attacks.
Yes.
And it also works well for roving gangs. So
Yes.
this completely threw me for a loop that we had clowns show up just bizarrely.
Yes. We've had a story about JFK, about various bits of grief and horror. We've had, all manner of quite difficult scenes. And now we have Flip Flop and Wobble Bottom.
And Wobble Bottom is the name of the clown character that Tommy Donbavand used to play. So he went, to school or he went to college for acting. After he left college, he became a clown called Wobble Bottom, touring the country, entertaining children. And then from there, he went on to perform on a Ukrainian cruise line. And then when he came back to London, he joined the cast of the West End musical, The Buddy Holly Story. Where he played the Clear Lake MC for 8 years, including stints on the UK tour and in the Toronto production.
Yeah.
So this is, I won't say a Mary Sue, but the clown equivalent of that, writing himself into the story.
Yeah, cool. Oh, okay. It makes a bit more sense. However, still, we have clowns. So, back in the ambulance, Warren nearly drives into a giant mound of snow. And he gets out to deal with it and then realises it's a polar bear. And Clara shoots at it, which only provokes more bears to emerge. So the two of them both get back into the ambulance and manage to spin it round. And they clip one bear and then another jumps through the windscreen. Meanwhile, in the slightly more surreal section of the narrative, May and the Doctor are sitting in armchairs in the clown's underground living room. And they learn that they are on the planet Semtis? Yes,
yeah,
Semtis.
So, yeah.
And also the Doctor explains that very conveniently the TARDIS is translating via the wormhole, which is a neat trick. It hasn't been established that the wormhole was pointing directly at Dallas, has it?
I think they were saying that the wormhole completely encircled the Earth, which is why the TARDIS takeoff and landing and stuff wasn't working. Like, they couldn't escape.
Okay. All right. If you say so. Flip Flop tells of how the Shroud destroyed their world. Like, people started seeing faces, and then the women in blue appeared, similar to the blue-veiled women in Dallas. Then some people were overtaken by jealousy, and these became known as the Wanters. But they're not the only ones that were kind of like overcome by emotions. There was the Ragers, who were overcome by anger, and the Tremblers, who are ruled by fear. It seems that the clowns are trying to restore emotions that the others have lost, but they can only do this by capturing those who've been infected. Meanwhile, Clara comes to in the snow, and she sees that the ambulance has killed the bear, but she's been thrown from the ambulance, and in the drift, she sees Warren half buried and still. And then she hears squeaky footsteps and blacks out. And I feel bad. I am laughing at the aftermath of a car crash, but I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's surreal. So surreal at this point that it's like, almost like anything goes.
Yes, yeah. Cutting back to the Doctor and May. So the Doctor's playing tunes on his recorder, and as they're kind of like trying to lure some of the Wanters, and eventually a male Wanter appears, and the clowns leap either side of him and gas him and drag him away. And May asks the clowns how come they hadn't been affected by the emotional extremes, and they reveal that they are ex-military, and the Doctor reckons that May and Warren are immune to the Shroud because they've been hardened by the nature of their work, or they're relatively immune to the Shroud. They have seen some sightings, but they haven't been completely overcome by them. So I was just thinking about this. Right, so this is set in 1963. It's like 18 years after the Second World War is finished. And like a lot of people will have gone through some pretty horrific stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. But hey ho. So anyway, right. So this is not a very cheery book, despite it featuring clowns. So the clowns have brought the captured Wanters or Wanter person, and also May and the Doctor, to a clown training camp in a series of underground tunnels. Wobblebottom shows them the cells where various Shroud victims are being kept in isolation, including Clara.
And yeah, this clown camp therapy circus training was, I guess, unintentionally terrifying in maybe a greatest show in the galaxy kind of way, but
yeah,
it's just, bizarre. So Clara's released, and it's revealed that the clowns had captured her and Warren, thinking that she was a rager about to attack them, despite the ambulance and everything with that. And Warren is being looked after by a clown called Orma, and when he was in the tunnel and they had driven over some of those bodies, he had seen a memory involving Orma from Orma's brother's point of view. So Orma's brother was one of the snacks that the Shroud had brought through. And the Doctor watches the clowns slowly get a chuckle out of one of the Wanters. And as a result of this therapy, which involves tying this person up and a bunch of clowns dancing around him until they make him laugh. And not scream. But, wondering what he can do for those who haven't all their grief consumed by the Shroud. So in the people on Earth who have been partially affected by the Shroud but haven't died or been fully drained of their grief yet.
Yeah.
So Wobblebottom agrees to send some clowns with the Doctor and May and Warren to get back to Earth. However, their mode of transport, the ambulance, has been destroyed in the most recent snowbank crash. So they need a new vehicle that can, fit everyone. And so what pulls up but a clown car, which... like TARDISes, are dimensionally transcendental and bigger on the inside. So there's no trouble at all fitting over 100 clowns and Clara and Warren and May and the Doctor into this clown car. Plenty of room. And so they all pack in and set off down the wormhole. And it's like 100 plus folks. And along the way, Clara meets a 5-year-old whose mother is a trembler, and Clara reflects that the world needs grief, despite what she used to think. Some introspection from Clara on her journey back.
Yes, in a clown car. I mean, there are some profound thoughts that this book comes out with. And then we have scenes of, oh my god.
We've jumped into Tides of Time and Voyager comic strip territory, folks.
Yes, yeah, we have. We have. Sorry. I just need to compose myself. Anyway, right. So the clown car arrives in the Dallas hospital because, why not? And as the clown army wander around, people that are standing next to blue-veiled women start saying the good things that they'll do, but only if they are released by, the blue-veiled women. And the Doctor says that it's the bargaining phase of grief. He's realised that what the Shroud are doing is pushing people through stages of grief. And because they've reached that stage, the Doctor reckons it will be 3 hours before the Shroud feast on everyone. But there's still like an enormous amount of people with a Shroud kind of parasite next to them. And then May realises that all of the people that are affected are adults. And the Doctor theorises that children aren't affected because typically they haven't had as much grief as adults. And so he needs everyone to round up as many children as they can and fill the clown car with kids. So off they are doing literal kidnapping and child abduction. Whilst this is happening, the Doctor gets the US Army to grant him access to all of the vehicles, loudspeaker systems, and pillowcases that they can gather. The Doctor then goes into the TARDIS to assemble an emotion amplifier from spare parts, so as to inspire hope in those affected by the Shroud. And with that done, a parade sets off from the hospital.
And the assembling of this device, the doctor's using a sonic to remove and screw in screws. And he says, like, oh, this is the first time I've used a sonic for this method. And it's like, well, did the doctor and the author forget about the very first scene with the sonic from Fury from the Deep, where the doctor does exactly that with the gas line or whatever, the screws? But I digress.
Well, we've established that the Doctor sometimes forgets things. Like, so with Peter Capaldi's first story,
Yeah.
he's forgotten he's met the Clockwork People before.
Yeah.
So
It's been a while, at least.
it has been a while. Yeah. So this parade that's setting off from the hospital has military jeeps covered in bedclothes, and on each jeep is a clown ready to perform. And all around the jeeps are kids armed with pillowcases. And the Doctor is betting that the world's media, who have been attracted to Dallas by Kennedy's assassination, are going to show the parade around the world and thus banish the Shroud. Though part of me is also thinking that this would rely on there being like 24-hour television. But anyway, and also what happens like if the Shroud are attacking you in your sleep?
Yeah, not everyone had television sets
No.
in 63. And
No.
it seems very visual and not something that would communicate well over radio.
Yes. Or newspaper. So the kids are throwing pillowcases in between the victims and the veiled women, thus breaking their power and hoping that everybody at home does the same. But also, another thing is like various bits of the world don't observe the same weekends as do in the Europe and North America. So like in the Middle East, various bits of the Middle East have Thursday and Friday as their weekend. Some have Friday and Saturday, and some now have Saturday and Sunday. So I don't know how this is working. Anyway, right. So the Shroud is responding to all of this by forcing their victims into depression. And then the Doctor realises that he's somewhat miscalculated and that the Shroud isn't an alien race, but is in fact a single creature. And the Doctor explains that the veiled women are tentacles of the Shroud, and that Shroud itself is the wormhole, and therefore the people whose faces they've seen in the tunnel are still being digested by the actual Shroud itself. And given the scale of the threat, only the Doctor can really take it on.
Yeah, so that revelation that the Shroud was, in fact, not a wormhole, but like a worm.
Yes.
And going from planet to planet, almost like an inchworm, where it has to attach itself to one planet and then stretch through wormhole magic and then find another planet, and then only once it's completely devoured that planet can it move, from planet to planet. It's got these tendrils, and that was kind of put the earlier stuff in a different light, in terms of driving through the wormhole, and in fact you were driving through the creature itself.
Yeah, and I guess it might explain how come they're not dying of oxygen, lack of.
Yeah.
So
the Doctor's been using his emotion amplifier device, which he calls Once More with Feeling, aka the Buffy musical.
Yes.
And has strapped it to his chest, and he then lets the device reach into his memories, and he's amplifying his grief to attract the different veiled women towards him. And so we go through a greatest hits of sad moments from the Doctor's past. So we get, Susan leaving in the Dalek invasion of Earth. We get the scene from the end of The Green Death with Jo and driving off into the sunset. We get Sarah Jane's departure, all sorts of things. And then as he's remembering these things, he's retreating further into the hospital. And we did get a new scene featuring the Brigadier's funeral, which doesn't go on for very long, but it's all of a sudden it did hit me emotionally there, because as I was reading and all the different doctors start showing up, I started thinking, whoa, this got all happy endings real quick.
Yes.
Or sad endings here, as the case may be for Sir Alistair.
You say sad endings, so I remember in Doctor Who magazine, after Happy Endings was released, people were speculating the letters page, what's going to be the plot for the 50th Missing Adventure? Is it going to be sad endings where the Doctor kind of goes to Sarah Jane Smith on her deathbed and various other... This is kind of what we're having here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Happy 50th anniversary, folks.
The Doctor's thinking about all these sad thoughts, and he's luring the veiled shroud manifestations into the corridor where the TARDIS is parked. And then this triggers stage 2 of the Doctor's plan, where Flip Flop, one of the clowns, drives the clown car into the tunnel. And the car has a long chain attached to it, which is what we saw earlier at the beginning of the novel, some of the dwarf star alloy chains. And the car stops in the tunnel, and a whole host of clowns pile out of it to secure the chain to the tunnel floor. At each end of the worm, almost like we were saying, like a caterpillar, there's tying these tendrils together in addition to securing the chain to the floor of, I guess, the interior of this worm. And then Wobblebottom sends a signal to Clara to start stage 3 of the plan, which involves her activating the fast return switch in the TARDIS.
Because of course.
As last seen in inside the spaceship, I believe.
Yes, yeah. This sends the TARDIS back towards the dwarf planet Benefax from the story's beginning, where the archaeologists were being rescued from a flood. So this is pulling the shroud free from the Earth because it's being pulled by the chain. And inside the shroud, the clowns are doing their best to try to ensure that the chain doesn't unhook from the tunnel floor. And the various tentacles emerging from the floor, and one of them grabs Flip Flop and throws him out into space. And this really upsets Wobblebottom, because it's a dear friend of his. And so Wobblebottom sets alight a bottle of fuel and starts burning the tentacles. So, which is an image. And back in the TARDIS, the Doctor contacts the space archaeologists from the beginning and asks them to help place the shroud across the oceanic dwarf planet. And so the worm-like shroud enters the oceans, and the archaeologists use their spaceship to drag both ends of the worm together. And the clowns use the tentacles to tie both ends together, forming a perfect loop, trapping it in the seas. And, the Doctor then takes the clowns back to Semtis. Here, Warren decides to stay, and back in Dallas, General West, who was the slightly enthusiastic general from earlier in the story, who was drugged, has been convinced that he's been successful, and so he ought to retire. The Doctor and Clara take May so she can say goodbye to her grandmother, and then we see a flash forward to the year 3006, where there has been a presidential assassination, and a woman unexpectedly sees her late mother. And that is the Shroud of Sorrow.
Yeah. And when they were tying up the ends of the worm, I guess the shroud, in that sea, they mentioned that the seas of that planet are made of avocados, which have a slight calming and restorative positive effect. So it almost acts as like a drug to keep the shroud drugged. And just before we jump to 3006, Clara speculates how many of other of these worms are out there. So that final scene just kind of indicates that there's at least one other shroud out there operating somewhere that we have not gotten a sequel to this, and no. Maybe we never will.
Yes, I think we possibly never will.
That might be okay.
Yes.
So what'd you make of this one?
Yeah, I think we're both scared to go first. Right, so I'll start. This is kind of like a book of two halves, because I was enjoying the really creepy Earthbound book. And then we have the clowns, and it just kind of falls apart a bit, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of a bizarre, wacky story where I wasn't expecting this trip to the frozen waste, alien planet in the middle chunk, and then having clowns in hobbit holes. It just veers into absurdity, really.
Yes.
And tonally, it was just all over the place, and felt more like a Doctor Who annual to me in terms of like the wild swings of back and forth, but it was all in the same book. And it's definitely not a book to judge by its cover, which was giving me, serious political thriller.
Yes.
With, like the Kennedy limo on it and stuff.
Yeah. The book makes you think we're having something like that Justin Richards' Eighth Doctor, James Bond-esque story. And we really don't.
Or Lance Parkin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Lance Parkin. Yeah. Sorry, pardon me. And also, as well, we have a character who's being referred to as Warren throughout most of this. And I mean, I am not an expert on JFK, but I have seen the Kevin Costner movie, and so I know of the Warren Commission. So I kept on expecting Warren to have some kind of weird link to it or something, but I think it's just there as a kind of like as a cute nod.
Yeah, the name, but yeah, it would be a different person probably. And
yeah, but I mean, the frustrating thing is I found it quite well written.
Yes, I wrote that note down too, where I said, despite all of this, I felt it was competently written. And at no point was I like, ugh, I have to finish this book. And if anything, like with it getting so bizarre, and absurd, every page that was turned, I kept thinking, like, where is this going to go? I have absolutely no idea. It was just completely unexpected from that. But I guess for me, it felt more aimed at like a younger audience compared to some of the other new series adventures we've read.
But that said, there's some harrowing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we also have like saber-toothed polar bears, and like contrast this with like how like the Blood Cell was written, for example.
Okay,
it's like it's just wildly different in tone. And I guess the prologue didn't really fit for me because the effect of the Shroud was just starting in Dallas, and was spreading from the hospital where you had the end of the wormhole and out from there. But the Totters Lane scene just felt like fan service to me and should probably actually be set much later in the book, if at all.
Yeah.
After the effect of the Shroud is spread.
Well, though maybe somebody had just travelled from Dallas, kind of like spreading the infection of the Shroud or something. I don't know. We don't know what the gestation period is.
Yeah. I mean, I did find that the resolution of the book was clever. The visual of like having a worm on a hook and bringing in the avocado soup planet, from the beginning.
Yeah.
That seemed clever to me, but I feel like the book should have been called something different, maybe a little more exciting, like Invasion of the Alien Clowns.
Yes.
But it just I don't know. It just, and then some of the characterization, like I was saying earlier, felt off to me.
Yeah.
Like how snippy the Doctor and Clara were to each other in the opening with the archaeological dig site and all that. And I also found it odd that the clowns on another planet would have had the exact same like sight gags as Earth, like sawing a woman in half, having swords through a box. I mean, those all Earth-based clown focus, so it very much spoke to like parallel evolution, on another planet, almost like veering into Star Trek territory there. Yeah.
There is absolutely no difference in the physiology of the clowns from the humans, or at least if there is, the book doesn't tell you.
Yeah, it did have some good pointed barbs directed towards Texans and American gun culture.
Yeah,
which rang true to me. And then, the sadness tour through the Doctor's past. In what may be a first, Grace Holloway actually gets a reference.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised about. I was like, oh, that got through.
I did wonder whether every season gets referenced.
At least, at some point.
Yeah, because it certainly feels like that.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, as what is kind of like effectively BBC Books' 50th anniversary celebration, it's an interesting note.
Yeah.
I mean, at least, they've done something different. It's not like the 11 Doctors or anything. It's a tour through lots of grief and sorrow. I mean, I don't know. I think you either have someone that isn't the clowns in the second half of the story. If it was just like a whole host of other aliens, I think that would be okay. Or you need to have the first half of the book doing something less serious.
Yeah, the two halves don't really mesh up, at least in tone,
Don't really add up, no. A book tries to justify it by sort of saying that comedy is an important thing, etc. And I go, yeah, I get that, but at one point I think you're trying to sell me a planet of clowns.
Yeah. So how are you going to score this one?
Oh dear. Well, because like the first half was heading towards 8 territory, so I think it balances out at a 5. Yeah, it's a 5. How about you?
For me, I enjoyed the clown part more than the first half.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just because I was like, okay, if this is like a Doctor Who comic strip sort of universe or rules, then I was able to get on board with that, and I found the first half with all the grief and stuff, especially after reading Plague City.
Yes.
It felt, even though I know this book came out first, it felt like a retread to me. So for me, I was actually more engaged the further on it got, because every page I was like, I had no idea what was going to happen next. So I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
And I think it gets an extra, probably would have been a 5, but the short scene at the Brigadier's funeral really did bump up the score by a point for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Did enjoy seeing that depicted. So yeah, I'm going to give this a very bizarre 6 out of 10. I certainly have never read anything quite like it.
No, and the sadness of it, I kind of get the feeling that we could have had another book or two by the author and it could have been brilliant. So there is this real what could have been here as well, because of the fact that he passes away 6 years after it's been published. And it's just it's such a shame, really.
Yeah.
So
It does make me want to listen to his Big Finish that was released, just to see if tonally it's similar, or if it is a different kind of take or approach to telling a Doctor Who story.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this one was a page turner, but maybe not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, that's Shroud of Sorrow.
Yes.
On that happy note,
Right.
shall we move on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's.
So we got a lovely note from listener Blake Jameson from Tauranga City, New Zealand, thanking us for the quality Doctor Who podcast. He listens on Spotify, and for him, we were his number 2 podcast for the year, just behind Doctor Who Review of Death and just ahead of the Power of 3 podcast. So I'll take runner-up. That's a silver medal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thanks, Blake, for listening and your kind words, and glad we could make your 2022 more enjoyable. Chris, how about on Facebook?
So Shag thanked us for posting the pre-credit story, which he found very helpful. And we heard from Eric Gulbrandsen. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name, Eric. And he said that this is a fantastic book. The Wintertime Paradox. And he says he wasn't sure about the premise or the holiday tie-in going in, but it impressed him every step of the way. Best collection that I've read in years.
Huh. One thing we didn't really talk about last month was just kind of our thoughts on the framing story or framing narrative of Wintertime Paradox. And I just wanted to say it was really cool to read an anthology where there was this connecting through line that didn't appear in every story, but kind of weaved itself in and out of that collection. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah.
On Twitter, we've heard from Kenny Smith of the Pieces of Eighth podcast, who said, and this is going back to Weapons of Past Destruction, that it was a fab comic and a great discussion. Cheers, fellas. And of Wintertime Paradox, Kenny says, not one that I've read, but I feel the urge to get it now, based on our discussion last month.
I could also recommend the Pieces of Eight have done a brilliant kind of series in December with an episode for each of the Eighth Doctor books that were published in the 90s with interviews with the authors. I mean, Kenny had mentioned it in an email to us or a tweet to us in a previous show, but it is definitely worth a listen.
Yeah, that's fantastic, as it goes kind of book by book.
Yes.
Revealing all sorts of little tidbits.
And particularly the interview of Mike Collier.
I don't know if I've listened to that one yet.
Yes.
I'm a few episodes behind, but excellent. We also heard from Shag on Twitter, where he says of Weapons of Past Destruction that it was another great episode. Glad you enjoyed this comic collection. I did too. As you said, great likenesses and spot-on dialogue. Cavan Scott is a winner, and he said, your review of Shining Man got me to read that book, and I loved it as well, and his Big Finish work is also excellent. And Shag is also reading The Wintertime Paradox along with us, or did last month, and has been posting his thoughts about that as well. So thank you, Shag and Kenny, for those wonderful comments on Twitter.
Yes, and sorry for possibly making you read Shroud of Sorrow.
It was a unique one. I would say it's worth reading just to experience it.
Yes, well, I think it's worth reading unspoiled, just for the whole. You're what now? What?
Yeah.
Because, like, when they're in darkness and, like, they've been rescued, and you kind of think, what's the reveal going to be? Is it going to be Cybermen? Because, like, clearly the author's hiding something here. And, like, we're going to have a big twist. And they're clowns.
Complete with a dimensionally transcendental clown car.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a bizarre. keep saying that, but it was just
Yeah.
it was out there.
There's only so many words in the English language that describe how surreal that book was. Anyway, right. Sorry, we'd heard from Kenny.
Oh yeah, that was the end of the tweets there.
Oh, okay. Marvelous.
So that also is the end of our current Doctor cycle.
It is.
So this was the last book in that, going through all of, at least one story from every Doctor.
Yes.
And now we're going to take a few side steps before we start up with another cycle.
Yeah.
And there's one series we haven't read from yet that has 19 novels in it.
Ah.
And yes, it is everyone's favorite, sometimes problematic spin-off, Torchwood.
Right. Okay, cool.
And we're going to be reading a story that focuses on a very intriguing former member of Torchwood who was introduced at the end of season 1.
Ooh.
And we're also going to be reading from an author that we've read before.
Okay.
But it was oh so very long ago.
Right.
We're going to be reading The Twilight Streets by Gary Russell.
Ah!
And judging by the cover, this may very well form an interesting clown duology with Shroud of Sorrow.
Right. Okay.
And The Twilight Streets is available as both an ebook and also was published in hardcover back in the day. So for February, we've got The Twilight Streets.
For February. Cool. Hopefully it'll be a more consistently tonal book, because 2023 is off to a wild start.
Well, on that note, Chris,
Yes.
we're going to quit clowning around and wish everyone a happy new year.
Yes, indeed.
And until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris and Stefan, happy reading, stay safe, and avoid the clowns.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
I had picked this before the clown reveal of the current.
Right. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the cover, so I'll need to have a quick look at it.
It has a Yanto in half clown makeup.
Right. Gosh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Marvellous. Okay. Well, I mentioned to a friend of mine that I was reading this book that was kind of like quite evocative of my mind of 1960s America, and reminded me in some ways of 11/22/63, the Stephen King book. I haven't seen the TV series. Then suddenly you have Wobble Bottom and Flip Flop, and a friend that says, right, okay, was somebody high? Well, it's one explanation.
And with his clown background and that it makes sense, but yeah, it is a narrative leap to to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you're writing a book, particularly for a franchise, you might want to get in as much as you'd want to, but dearie dear.
Yeah, and it all of a sudden we're in giant rubber ducky territory of Tides of Time and
yeah. We didn't actually mention this during the show itself, but it looks like possibly we have some Doctor Who magazine characters that may be making their debut on our TV screens in 2023.
Yes, we do.
So maybe we might get round to reading the Star Beast at some point.
Yeah, that would be a good selection for our next trip through the Doctor cycle.
Yes, yeah.
For 4.
Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, I will let you get back to your tax.
New Year's prep. I'll go back to our Robert Holmesian nightmare.
Well, enjoy. Hopefully the collector is safe on Pluto and far away.
Yes. Hopefully so.